I ate for telling my sister if the show she kept sending me clips of didn't help her understand why I'm no contact with our dad, then there's no hope for her. I, 31F, have 3 siblings. I have an older brother who's 32 and 2 younger sisters who are 27 and 26. When we were kids our mom died from cancer. 18 months later our dad met and married his second wife, who had also lost her husband and had 3 children with him. They knew each other for less than 2 months when they decided we were all going to be one big blended family. Then it took less than a year for the word adoption to come up. They wanted to adopt each other's kids. 3 of us were not okay with this. Me and my brother and then wife number 2's oldest son. We were the 3 who remembered our late parents really well and didn't want to have a new mom or dad. This did not matter to the adults. My dad told me and my brother that our younger sisters were on board and our younger 2 stepsiblings were on board and majority rules. I was 10 years old at the time and it had been 3 years since my mom had died. The house became a battlefield after this decision because they could not get us older 3 on board, and when they went through the process to adopt each other's kids, they were denied the ability to adopt the 3 of us who didn't want it. So the younger 4 kids were adopted by their stepparent. The older 3 were not. The anger could be felt by all the kids and the younger ones blamed us and didn't understand why we weren't on board. Wife number 2 and I argued a lot in my teens. She tried to reach out to me as a mother and I rejected her as a mother. I could be civil and respectful if she was just an adult. But I told her I didn't want another mother and she didn't like that. She would also tell me how much it hurt that me and my brother didn't want to be her kids. She'd say she loved us and all she wanted was to call all 7 of us her kids. She said she could not understand the need for us to hold on to the dead, and she said it's not like we didn't still see our late parents' families, so we should grow the fuck up and let them be happy. I told her she should grow the fuck up and accept she can't force people to be her kids. There were several attempts to push the adoption through without us wanting it, and legally it was rejected every time. We were even dragged to a church therapist who tried to talk us into submission about the topic. The relationships were all very strained. My relationship with my brother is the only strong one today, and we're both no contact with our dad and wife number 2. To the best of my knowledge, wife number 2's oldest son has no contact with anyone, including his siblings. My brother and I still have a relationship, albeit a strained one, with our sisters. They were invited to our weddings and have met our kids. But they don't approve of the no contact and they are on a lower contact now because they have said our kids should know dad and wife number 2. I disagree and have said it would not be healthy, but my sisters don't overly care. There was a show on TLC a few years ago called The Blended Bunch. I never watched it but saw some clips and it hit close to home. One of my sisters saw it and sent me TikTok clips that centered around some of the kids not wanting to be adopted and one of the relatives of the family being the voice of reason. Only my sister kept saying I was a shithead like the relative who said they wouldn't want it either and it was wrong to force on the kids. I told her after several comments that if the clips didn't help her see why I went no contact and how awful it is to see crying kids and to still try and push them, then there's no hope for her at all. I told her she didn't live through the experience in the same way our brother and I did. Her reply back was that I was ungrateful and should see those kids being brats and trying to ruin a good thing just like we did. She also told me to say there's no hope for her, shows how repulsive I am as a person. After all this, I'm pretty sure no contact will need to extend to both sisters because both act the same, only one has TikTok for this interaction. But I could still be an AH in this, so I'm asking if I am or not. My judgment, NTA, and I personally think that you're handling the situation with your blended family very well op. It personally makes my blood boil whenever someone forces their kids to accept their new spouses as their parental figures. That's not something anyone has the right to do. Yes, kids should be respectful to their parents and their spouses if they remarry, but that's as far as it goes. They're not obligated to accept them as parental figures and they're jackasses if they don't accept that. And I know I'm not alone in thinking that. Let's see what my jury in the comments have to say about this. Comment 1, user: you say wow, you and she had very different experiences because you were older and had stronger memories of your mother. Each of your siblings have their own personalities and feelings, and your relationship with your stepmother was not the same as her experience. Also, the fact that your father and stepmother repeatedly kept trying to force you and your brother and stepbrother to accept adoption so many times will no doubt have caused huge stress, anxiety and upset for the three of you. That will also have had a huge impact on the relationship between you, your father and stepmother. If your sister thinks so poorly of you that she thinks you were a brat and that your dad and stepmother deserve to be in your life, then she doesn't think much of you at all. If it's better for your mental health to cut her out, do so. It's not like you haven't tried your best to remain in touch with your siblings whilst choosing to protect yourself from your dad and stepmother. NTA. To this Broawayman replied, yeah, her sister's perspective completely disregards how she and her brother were treated as children. She can't claim to fully understand something she didn't experience the same way. It's unfair of her to expect her to forgive and forget such a painful chapter of her life. Comment to Foxy Sly Old Stotee Fox, your NTA. It's a shame that your sister is so full of hate. A cynic would speculate that she was brought up by people who had shit values and put their own happiness above their children, and that your sister continues to hold on to those values. A nasty cynic would suggest that you should break contact by telling her that if she dies her children should be encouraged to forget about her as quickly and as completely as possible, in keeping with her own lack of values, but I don't quite go there myself. To this Professional Egg 5073 replied, yeah, maybe her husband can remarry ASAP, so her kids can be adopted by their new mom. Story 2. AITAH for kicking my son's girlfriend out. My 16-year-old son met a girl at a camp he was working at over this last summer. They quickly started to go out, and she became his first girlfriend shortly after meeting. Like many first relationships, they are madly in love and totally going to marry and be together forever. I'm going to be honest, I don't like her. She has consistently been dismissive of his needs and interests, and I've noticed her being controlling. One issue that has regularly come up between the two is my son's weight. She has, according to my son, multiple times told him that he is too fat for her, and even has a plan to help him lose 30–40 pounds. For context, my son is 5'10" and around 170 pounds, so he is overweight, but not 30 to 40 pounds overweight. He has always been tall, projected to be 6'3" to 6'5" with broad shoulders and the same build. Me and his mom, my wife, have told him that those plans seem excessive, and that if she is only interested in him if he loses a quarter of his body weight, she might not be as invested in the relationship as he is. But of course he is 16 and in love, so I suspect this advice went in one ear and out the other. This came to a head on New Year's Eve. We invited, or rather he invited her, to have dinner with us and then participate in our annual nice celebration. I cooked a healthy meal, stir-fry with tofu and tons of veggies, and we wanted to have a nice sit-down dinner, and then a good event. Towards the end of dinner, my son got up to get seconds. His girlfriend then lightly slapped his shoulder and said, "Aren't you fat enough? I've told you I don't want a fat-ass husband, and I certainly don't want fat-ass kids." I then pulled them into the kitchen and, essentially, kicked her out of the house. I was clear that I understood that they were 16 and I couldn't control what they did outside of the house, but this was our house, and I did not want to share it with someone who wasn't going to be disrespectful towards any of us. My son thinks I was completely out of line, and that I am trying to butt into his relationship. He believes he was wrong to want a second helping, and she was just helping him remember his goals and stick to them, and is threatening to move out and live with her family. I am not very worried about this. I think she was disrespectful towards him, and what she said was absolutely inappropriate in that context. Additionally, I am worried about her interest in his weight, which does not seem proportional to the actual condition, and about how quick she was to start talking about being married and worrying about potential future kids. So Reddit, Ada. My judgment. Definitely NTA, I can understand why your son is upset with you, but I personally think you did the right thing by kicking her out because her behavior is absolutely unacceptable. No one should treat their significant other like that at any age, and if you didn't step up she would have continued to emotionally abuse your son without facing any consequences. If your son thinks it's okay for her to talk to him like that, then you need to have a long discussion with him when things cool down about having self-respect, and also have him speak to a guidance counselor or maybe a therapist if you can afford it. Comment 1 WLFWRTR said NTA get him into therapy so he can get the self-respect he should have and understand the differences in a healthy relationship and a toxic one. He isn't going to listen to you or your wife because he thinks you are against him. Comment 2 Win equivalent 4069, 16 years old, 5 feet 10 inches and 170 pounds is not overweight. Absolutely NTA. His girlfriend is going to give your son body dysphoria issues. She's got to go. To this Vanderisen replied, NTA. These are her plans. What are his plans? She is controlling and has no shame about it. Hypothetically, what if they get married and she gains weight? Would it be okay by her rules to divorce her? If he's so fat, why is she even bothering with him? Why does she care about him losing weight? I mean, if he's so fat. She berated and insulted your son in your house. If he's not going to stand up for himself, someone has to. I'd say you would be the if you didn't kick her out. Final story. Aida for making my mom cry after telling her she can't control my life. I 18M just finished high school and live with my mom, who's deeply controlling, religious and conservative. She recently announced that she plans to send me to an Islamic boarding school for at least 5 years. That means no college, no job, no pursuing my goals, just being stuck in a school that I don't want to attend. Here's the confusing part, my older brother is in college now. He started a bit later, so maybe she's trying to repeat that process with me, but honestly, I don't want to wait. I've been looking forward to working and going to college straight away. I want to start building my future now, not 5 years from now. The worst part is that I don't even believe anymore. I've kept this to myself for obvious reasons. So, the idea of going to this school feels even more stifling and out of place for me. Today, she told me it was final, she's taking me to this school whether I like it or not. That's when I snapped. I told her, no, it's my life, and I'm the one who gets to decide. I'm not a little kid anymore, and you can't control me like this. She immediately started crying and saying stuff like, I've sacrificed everything for you, and this is how you repay me. I didn't know how to respond. On the one hand, I feel bad for upsetting her, but on the other, I feel like I have the right to decide my own future. Now I'm sitting here, waiting to see what happens next. I'm torn between guilt and frustration. So, Aida for standing up for myself, even if it made her cry. Or should I have handled this differently? My judgment. Wow, this one really hit differently for me, but you're definitely NTA here. Your mom is trying to manipulate and guilt you into submission. Do not under any circumstances fall for it. You were completely in the right for putting your foot down and telling her that it's your life and she's just upset that she can't control you and your decisions. If she truly cares about what's best for you, she'd give you the freedom to choose what path you want to take. I know it's not gonna be easy, believe me, I've been in plenty of situations with controlling family members, but you have to stand your ground. Even if you have to start supporting yourself financially and move out. Is there perhaps a relative in your corner that you can stay with or ask for help? If so, I recommend you reach out to them. In a situation like this, it's best not to handle it alone. Comment 1 lavish_Namu, NTA, do not go. Whatever you do, even if you have to move out and support yourself, do not go to that school for 5 years. Luckily you are 18 now, and she can't make you unless you let her. Comment 2 Rosalindash said, NTA. Your mom is using emotional manipulation to control your life path. She's literally crying because you checks notes want to get an education and build a future. Classic narcissistic parent behavior right there. The fact that your brother got to go to college while she's trying to force you into Islamic boarding school is a massive red flag. She's using religion as a weapon to maintain control over you, and those tears are just ammunition in her guilt arsenal. You're 18, legally an adult. Your life choices are yours to make. Don't let her emotional blackmail derail your future. Start making plans to get out and be independent. Her tears aren't your responsibility, your future is. Comment 3 Curious 1 4595, NTA. Her tears are a weapon. Here's how you respond. I love you, Mom, but I'm not your little boy anymore. I'm a grown man and I will live my life and prepare for my future the way I choose. It was your duty to raise me well, and I don't have to repay you for that. You should be happy that I am strong and independent. I am what you made me. However, you have to be prepared that she could throw you out of the house. Once you strip away her emotional manipulation, that may be her last card to coerce you. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, and if you want me to judge more stories like these, then press the subscribe button, and until my next trial, I am the Reddit judge and I will see you in the next video.